Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from our space. Wife cheated on me 4 days after our 10-year wedding anniversary. My wife and I have endured a lot over the course of our marriage, most of which are things that were beyond our control. I have a successful career, but our earnings were taken from us, like D's, twice in 5 years, and I have an immune disorder that gets me sick at the drop of a hat. So, of course, when COVID came around, I almost died from it, and spent over a year recovering from very bad symptoms that kept me in bed most days. Luckily, my career allowed me to work remotely from my bed, but I can't say I did my job well, as COVID brain fog is a thing. Finally, long-hauler COVID sufferers, especially men, lose 100% of their libido. What made me better, finally, was the Pfizer vaccine. It literally cured me of 14 months of absolute hell. Fast forward to April 2021. Ailment, brain fog, financial difficulties, all culminated in me recognizing I reached the point of emotional hopelessness. While not suicidal, I know I needed professional help in a major way, so I voluntarily checked myself into a behavioral hospital for a few days. While the hospital itself was only marginally helpful, one therapist helped me to realize that my long-term ailments made me unintentionally selfish due to prolonged depression. I ugly cried when I had this epiphany, as I realized what harm I brought to my wife's emotional well-being and to our marriage in general. I was a new man, almost overnight, in some respects. I was still quite emotionally fragile, and recognized I had a long way to go to repair myself and regain my wife's confidence in me. I emerged from the hospital and my wife picked me up. She immediately noticed the 180 and said, "Wow, I have my husband back." I told her my COVID symptoms continued to abate, and even my libido and desire towards emotional and physical intimacy for her was also returning, and looked forward to embracing us fully, and my wife was incredibly happy for me, for her, and for us. Unfortunately, fate stepped in 4 days later, as she sat in a cafe outdoors. A younger, fit, healthy, and charming athlete decided to strike up a conversation with her. My wife is, in a word, hot. I mean, I know I show bias because she's my wife, but she looks amazing. She is tall and very well proportioned, and her face beautiful. The gentleman in question was a foreigner and a charmer. He was a bona fide sponsored professional in his sport, and well known in his country. He visited our city to train for a few weeks. When she came home, she could not shut up about the guy, but I thought nothing of it. Crushes happen, and I am not the jealous type. The day after was the beginning of the bad times ahead. She didn't tell me they exchanged contact information, and they met up. She came home from her daily dog walk, beaming. I knew immediately she met him. She tried to deny it, but she knows I am very astute when it comes to reading people in general. She pretty much told me that she was going to have this non-emotional, purely physical thing, and said sex would not likely happen. As I was 5 days out of the mental hospital, I was in no position to fight her on this, either mentally or physically. As with the latter, I was still weak from fighting 14 months of COVID, even though the vaccine continued to allow me to improve steadily every day. With the lack of intimacy on my end, due to being sick for so long, and considering he was only in town for another week before he returned to his home country, she was absolutely determined to have this affair. Because I lacked the means to fight her effectively, she viewed it as approval from me, which I did not. I essentially told her that she would let me track her on her phone at all times, for her safety. She would let me know if they were intimate. She promised, but she lied on both counts. Of course. Further, she told me that while he was in town, I could not hug her, touch her, kiss her, or make any intimate overtures toward her. I told her that I was afraid she was lying to me and that she was falling for him. I asked her to promise me I was not losing her. Remember, I was fresh out of a mental hospital due to hopelessness. And she said she could not promise that to me. She took him to our favorite restaurant, a very romantic place. They made love in a park that night, even though she told me they only kissed. The next morning, she grew livid when I asked again how far they went. Adults don't go into a coast park at night to kiss, and insisted I was being paranoid. She checked herself into the swankiest hotel in her city because she needed time to herself, and tried to convince me that she was not doing so in order to see him. She stayed for 2 nights. At the end of the second night, he showed up. She had the nerve to text me that he came to the hotel. They had mediocre sex, then he left. She met him one final time the next morning in a cafe, as he was leaving the next day. She decided to go all out and proclaimed she had fallen for him. Here's where it gets funny and sad. The man was a player in every sense of the word. He was shagging multiple women while in town, trying to juggle them all, including my wife. At no time did he reciprocate any words of affection or emotional attraction to my spouse. He was 100% pure alpha male player. Treated her horribly. Spent most of their time together talking about himself, his training, even that he went to a strip joint with members of a professional football NFL team, which pissed her off, but also made him even more attractive to her, of course. So, she came home, fully expecting me to light her up, and I did. She said she did it. It's over. She had no emotional feelings for him, and that it was my decision as to whether or not I wanted to stay with her afterwards. She said she did it as a means to regain her self-confidence, something I tried to do for years before I got sick, to no avail. I'm a pretty smart cookie, and really, really good from a technical perspective. I knew from the outset she would lie, omit, and follow the cheating wives playbook, and did it to the letter, including gaslighting me on a number of occasions. Let's say that I had means to listen in on her conversation in real time, and recorded the same. She knew I had that capability, but she chose to blatantly disregard it, and pressed on with the affair. Of course, she even offered to let me go and screw someone to make me feel better, if that's what I wanted to do. So stupid. So typical a response. Every lie she told, I called her out on. I presented the evidence. She was devastated when she knew she was fully caught. I had just about everything. Of course, she tried the "I can't remember" crap. She had to downplay their sexual encounters. I knew about both. I knew she told him she fell for him, as again, I was able to listen in real time and record the same. I gave her transcripts. So where are we now? Now, she is aware of how much she hurt me. She's doing everything and anything to make it right. There's nothing she can do to regain my trust, and she knows that as well. She says she is willing to take my anger, my indifference for the rest of her lives, if it means that I may see, through her actions, that she is worse than sorry for what she did to me. I think she is truly remorseful. She admits that if he stayed in town longer, she would have continued to see him, knowing full well it would have completely ruined any chance we have to reconcile. She's blocked him. I have access to all of her devices. I know where she goes at all times. She says she will let me do this to the end of days. What she doesn't understand is that she has forever changed me. I was never a jealous man. I am not an alpha. I never tried to be. But I am confident in who I am as a man, and I have never had problems with the ladies. I've had 100 opportunities to stray due to women's advances towards me, and I never considered infidelity. The first time it happened to her, she was a bit heavy prior to how she looks now, and while attractive to me, she didn't meet the worldly standards of beauty like she does now. She lets herself get shagged, and all because he was so good looking and fit and confident. He played her like a fiddle. Why am I not filing for divorce immediately? Because prior to her idiotic endeavor into wayward wifeville, she bent over backwards when I had COVID for 14 months. She kept me on this planet. To say what she did was over and above to keep me on Earth would be an understatement. I know she loves me. I know why she betrayed me. She tried to blame it on stress and lack of confidence, but in truth, it was simply because a guy like that, for the first time in her life, wanted to screw her. And he said all the right things about her looks. He got her to say sexual things she would never otherwise say. She has admitted to everyone from her friends to her parents what she did, and that she will spend the rest of her life trying to make it up to me. And she knows I don't trust her and may still decide to leave her. Right now, it's 50-50 about whether I can call it quits. I have a lawyer. I have papers written up and ready to be delivered if she messes up even once with me. So, thoughts? Let's see some comments from the community. Bobby Fisher Magoo says, "This will probably not be a popular opinion, but I think you should get a marriage counselor and try and work things out. She clearly cares about you, but didn't feel sexually fulfilled. Marriage is about so much more than sex, and even though trust has been broken, there's always time to heal the wound. I'll probably get crapped on for saying this, but if you love her and she loves you, then make it work." The OP says, "I appreciate any opinion that isn't an obvious troll. She really screwed up and said horrible things to me during the time he was here, because she saw me, her husband, as an impediment to her having an affair. I am willing to put in the time, but trusting her is going to take years, if ever, and I am forever changed emotionally due to her infidelity. I trust absolutely, or not at all. She also knows full well that my first marriage ended due to infidelity, and yet she performed this act. She wanted the affair. She checked every box in the cheating wife playbook: lies, gaslighting, blame shifting, trickle truth, and I shut it all down. I own a cybersecurity company. I know my way around electronic devices, but I never dove into her laptop, pad, or phone prior to the affair. I knew the affair from the second day onward, so of course I worked my cyber magic, and did so legally. The phones were in my name, under my plan." Stabby Runner's comment is, I agree about the counselor. Separate and together. Need to work on trust and communication. Doesn't mean you have to stay in the same place while this is happening, but if you decided to divorce, you'll have a clearer picture. DOP's response? I am doing the individual counseling thing, but not yet ready for marriage counseling. I want to separate because I want a clearer picture, which I'm not getting currently. Time for the update. The guy is real jerk-off. He clandestinely made videos of their hotel room romp, then posted on an X-rated video site. Then another, more popular porn site picked it up. So now I get to actually see what they did. Fabulous! Here's the kicker. I'm the one actually fighting the sites to take down unauthorized videos. I can tell via watching 37 full minutes of one, plus 1 minute 18 seconds of another, and another 5 minutes 7. She didn't know. She is, of course, devastated. Karma Bus kinda ran her over, methinks, after she started this affair 4 days after I get out of a behavioral hospital to heal, and 5 days after our 10th wedding anniversary. I'm started to feel indifferent. Not a good sign. Something broke inside me mentally after watching the videos. I feel nothing. One quick reply from 1776 Minute Man. I have never heard of anybody having a good marriage after something like this, even if they did stay together. I have seen couples stay together, no question, but I have never seen a betrayed spouse in this situation being happy they stayed together. Okayish resignation to a relationship on life support is the best I've ever seen come out of this. I've also never heard of anybody in this situation who regretted divorcing their spouse after something like this. Yes, it's painful and sad in the short term. Yes, it's hard on you no matter what. But really, it's the difference between ripping the Band-Aid off and allowing yourself to heal versus allowing this to slowly fester and eat at you. Good luck, whatever your choice, and I hope you're doing better.